I need better backgrounds. If you watch Philip Chase, he always has these lovely settings around his house somehow with great ornaments and whatnot. And it's all very minimalist as well. And nice plants. And I have this cluttered office, which is always the same. So maybe I'll get a green screen and have some fake backgrounds. I could even steal Philip's and put them there. Anyway, I'm just going to do a general ramble about the things that were keeping me busy in the last part of October. Um, and at the end, I'll do some name dropping. I went to a board game club that I go to every Thursday last night, and nobody asked me why I wasn't there the week before. And if they had, I would have had a great opportunity to casually name drop and say, well, George R. R. Martin unexpectedly invited me to dinner. Nobody asked. So here I am blatantly name dropping. I'll do it at the end. So the first thing I want to talk about is Bristol Con. So I went to Bristol Con and you know take us through a bunch of photos of the event. Um, it's a fairly small thing. It's a 1 day con and we had a meal the night before. And generally speaking, it's the same people who turn up. Not I mean, there's some new faces here. Here's Timmy Takas from Queen's Book Asylum, who comes all the way from Hungary to attend the thing. Um, I think that's Jao Silva, self-published author, who was I think a semi-finalist in the SPFBO this year. And that's Gregory Contas, who was on the SPFBO panel. The first year we've had an SPFBO panel at the event, and we also awarded some finalist coins there. Norbert, and I would murder his surname, but another Hungarian and a German, Julia Serene, I think, who is a blogger for Fantasy Faction. So there's just loads of bloggers and authors all over the place, and I think that's Justin Lee Anderson in the background there. And it's nice. We sit around, we drink. And normally I don't go into the con itself, but I have the last couple of years because we've had SPFBO things going on. Let me see if I can take us through some more. So I think that's Jenny Hannaford signing books there, and I actually bought one of her books. I'll show you in a minute. Um, um, Anna Stevens, a grimdark writer. Um, there's Mitriel Faywood and Norbert, I'm going to say Zvich or something of that nature. I'll show you his book in a minute. Showing each other's books there. Steve McHugh, I think he's quite a well-known author, writes for 47 North. Um, what I'm really trying to get to is this panel here, which is the SPFBO panel. And we had a number of last-minute dropouts for various reasons, mostly to do with the weather and one to do with a visa. So there we've got Jacob Sanots, who kindly volunteered to jump in and then was introduced, I think, as Jacob Santa. The whole thing's live streamed on YouTube somewhere. And Phil Williams, I've got one of his books. I'll show you, and I've read one of his books before. It's very good. Um, and yes, so we had this panel that went on for what's going on there. Didn't want to do any of that. An hour or so with some questions and awards. I think the because it's Bristol where we have the Concorde somewhere parked up somewhere, you can go and see it. That's a schematic of it, and I think the best caption for some of these images were to do with them trying to explain the failure of the Concorde. It was anyway. No, not Norbert. There's me buying a book from Jenny Hannaford, and I have that book to show you, and I will. There they are. I think that's the one where they were. Um, the caption suggested was to do with the what had gone wrong with the aircraft behind them, and Matthew Munro, author T.O. Munro, chaired the panel for us. Don't know that guy. Um, and let's just see if I can leap through some of these to get to. Yes, that was another good one to caption. Um, I want the CD. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Wen Draven, who's a finalist in this year's SPFBO, had flown all the way from America to get her award. And Trudy Skies had come from somewhere far up north in a very grueling coach journey. And I remember this last year I didn't get a photo with the finalists who got their coins. But this year I was prompted into it, and so here we are. Um, and I can see pictures of some of the some authors getting their coins. Anyway, so the thing I wanted to show you was the books that I got from that. I got a Phil Williams book, which is called However Many Must Die. So I will be reading that at some point. I bought with my own fair money this book, which was a previous SPFBO entrant, and I think the cover did very well in the cover contest. So that's Skin by J.E. Hannaford, and I got this one. You can see why I was hesitant to attempt Norbert's surname. It's almost a palindrome and had lots of S's and Z's in it, but Zvich, the sealed, just called Sealed Empire, looks intriguing, so I'll be reading that. Um, Anyway, so after I'd been to Bristol Con, the next week I was going down to London for Comic Con, and I also took the opportunity. Well, it sprung up unexpectedly to meet with my editor, who uh, is Jane Johnson, and the image of that, which I had set up. There we go. So Jane has edited all my books at Voyager, and that's where the editing happens. And then when the books are edited, they're sent to America, and they get a slight sort of massage where they put more commas in. But it's essentially all done in England with Voyager. And I didn't know I was going to meet her, but I happened to have picked up her book. Whoops, the 10th Gift. This was, I think, her debut under her own name, and did very well. It's on Goodreads with loads of ratings. And I just happened to be reading this on the trip. So when I was going to see Jane, and we met at Putney Bridge Station, which is a place I always used to go and meet my mates. Most of my friends lived in Putney for some strange reason, and I lived a long way off in Ealing. But I always used to be going to Putney, and I'd often be waiting at Putney Bridge Station for one of my mates to show up. And here I was, like 40 years later, wait at Putney Bridge Station, waiting for Jane and her husband Abdel to show up. And on page 2 of the book, so I had just literally read this. It says we were meeting at the Noctera Turi. That's a restaurant near the southern end of Putney Bridge. So even the book was prophesizing our meeting at the southern end of Putney Bridge. And I wanted to read you the first line of this because I thought it was a really good first line of the book. There are only 2 or 3 human stories, and they go on repeating themselves as fiercely as if they had never happened before, like larks that have been singing the same 5 notes for thousands of years. I thought that was a really good first line for a book. I like that idea of the lark song being this repetition of the same 5 notes, and human literature being this repetition of the same set of core stories. So anyway, I'm really enjoying the 10th Gift. And we had lunch. It was late October, and we had lunch outside in, as you can see, shirt sleeves in glorious sunshine. And we had it at the Fulham Palace, which is remarkably, for the number of times I've been through Putney Bridge Station or come out of Putney Bridge Station, within, well, a better arm than mine, but essentially a stone's throw from Putney Bridge Station is this marvelous Tudor manor with formal gardens that I had been completely unaware of. So you can see it here in. Let me see if I can move myself. So it's basically built in like 1500. It's a brick Tudor manor, a bit like Hatfield House, with these formal gardens and greenhouses, and there's a really nice restaurant there and lawns. Really nice. Had a great time. Um, and the other thing I was down in London for, bouncing up and down between London and Bristol for, was the MCM Comic Con. I had agreed to go on my first ever panel, first ever conference panel. So I go to Bristol Con, but I never appear on the panels there. And I never have been to a conference where I've appeared on a panel. So let me see if I can find some images of that. I think I will just need to go here. So here we go. Uh, Comic Con is just vast, and there's like 30 to 40,000 people, I think, who come up to it, and a fair sized chunk of them are in these brilliant costumes, like not just a little bit of face paint, but sort of enormous props and just really impressive. Um, and only a tiny fraction of those people come and listen to the book, the authors talk about books. But even so, a tiny fraction of that vast number is a pretty sizable audience. So there I was, and I somehow positioned myself dead center, though, as I was just walking onto the stage. It didn't feel like I was doing that. Um, and I'm there with Esme, I think it's Jimmicky Pearson. Apologies if I mangled the first part of that name. Justin Lee Anderson, Ed McDonald, and that's Alwyn, and I forget her surname, but she was moderating, and she's a very successful author as well. Um, and we answered questions from her and then from the audience, and it was all very interesting. And look, you can see that's a fairly sizable audience. I was suitably intimidated. Um, and after the questions, it was book signing, and I was sat at the desk over here, and I could just see like a couple of people in front of me at any one time. So I didn't think that I had a very big queue, but here it is, stretching back to well, quite a long way. Um, and I remember these people turning up, and there were loads of people behind them. So I guess as the queue shortened, more people joined in. I'm told by several people they joined the queue and then left because they got bored waiting. Um, so it was heartening to have all those people buy the book and want to get me to sign it and have a few words. And then there's some photos of well, actually smiling of me sort of doing my job, I guess. And I had the other authors alongside me. Um, so that's Shauna Lawless, who is the author of. Oh, it's just spotted it on the floor. The first one is Children of Gods and Fighting Men, and this one, The Words of Kings and Prophets. They're both excellent books. Sort of fantasy set in the Ireland of about 1000 AD with Vikings and Irish kings. And she was getting me to sign a Dispel Illusion, I think. Who else did we have? So there's Justin Leanderson and Esme, and Ed McDonald would have been sitting over here. Um, and there's that couple I talked about having reached the front. And there's me chatting to an elf. But yeah, it was good fun. And I would do it again. So maybe there'll be more conference panels in my future. Um, and I think we are drawing towards the end of what I wanted to talk about. Um, so I did get this out of the blue invitation to have dinner with George R.R. Martin, and I threw my social anxiety to the wind and said yes because my family would never let me hear the end of it um, if I had said no. And I think that the only reason he was kind enough to extend that invitation was because I had written some stories for Wildcards, which is a project very close to his heart, which is a sort of ongoing series of anthologies. There's about 40 of them now, where a great number of authors write stories in this shared world where there's a virus, an alien virus, and most people it comes in patches here and there, and then dies away again. And most people who contract it will die. Like 90% will die, 9% will be horribly disfigured by it, and 1% will get superpowers. So I wrote these two stories, The Visitor, and then the follow-up, Visitor, Kill or Cure. The Visitor is in the anthology called Knaves Over Queens. And the second one, the Kill or Cure one, is on Tor's website. And you can also buy both of them on Amazon. But the Visitor, the first one is free because I got the rights back after a while. I put it on Amazon for free, and the other one is on Amazon, but you have to pay 99 cents or $1.99. But they're both stories I'm proud of. They sort of give disabled representation, which is something I wanted to do for my daughter Kellen. But also, I think they're just good stories, and clearly George Martin liked them, and was kind enough to then reciprocate with this dinner invitation, which I jumped on and got a free meal. So that's all I have to say, really. But yes, I've been bouncing up and down between London and Bristol, and coming out of my shell a little, and doing these things. I will hit the stop button and let you get on with your lives.